Welcome to Screenwriters Rewatch, the show where we delve into IMDb's top 250 film lists to see whether or not they deserve a place in film history, and most importantly, in our script department vaults, buried this week in the Egyptian tomb surrounded by snakes. But what film are we reviewing? I've brought with me Alex, who is one of our newbies to the script department. Welcome, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Would you like to tell our listeners and our viewers what film we are reviewing this week?
So, today we are going to be doing Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of my favourite films ever, I think.
Fantastic. Well, it is one of the better ones of the Indiana Jones trilogies. I think was it trilogies or I don't know what the collective group is for four.
Saga.
Saga.
There's a fifth coming out soon.
Oh my goodness, I can't keep up. Well, over to you. Do you want to give us your lowdown on Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark?
So what really draws me to this film is how simple it is in a way. It's a very clear sort of story. It really takes us from A to B. It has very defined characters. We really understand who Indiana is, who Marion is, who Belloc is, who the Nazis are sort of are. We get everybody sort of thing without having to delve into backstory. We don't really need all of this sort of trudgery that we find a lot with sort of modern films. Every film now has to have the reason they got into this is because of X, Y, and Z. They spent the years on the street. They spent where father was a thief and they were arrested or whatever. It's simply, this is a man who goes on adventures saving relics around the world to give it to a museum. And this is one of the adventures. Now, this is probably one of the bigger adventures than he has, if you don't include the other films. Probably a lot of them is just him wandering through a cave and then running around a little bit. Well, obviously this one is very perilous. It's also a throwback to the old serials from like the 1920s and 30s and 40s. So it's very sort of serialized, which I really like. It sort of resets in a way every sort of 15-20 minutes, which I really love. It's just one of those perfect films. Like there's no real there's no real sort of fat to it. Everything's lean, everything's sort of really tight. Rewatching, there's probably only one bit I can think of that you could probably cut and it would still sort of feel the same. But apart from that, it's a tight, great action adventure film that everybody can watch until the terrifying parts at the end.
Yeah, some of them are a little bit gruesome. I particularly enjoyed watching the wax melty faces of the antagonists. That was quite epic. It's, like nowadays you would do that with CGI, but you can't beat a wax model, I think.
No, yeah, and that's, it's all very practical. It's all very, it feels real. It just feels really sort of real. The whole thing, the fight sequences, the action, everything has this sort of down to earth quality. Even though it's about an archaeologist who runs around finding things that God had put there, which is, quite outlandish, but everything is very sort of grounded within it.
He's quite a relatable character as well. There's quite a lot of flaws that we can all identify with. He's quite clumsy and he's quite funny, and he has to check his spelling and things like that. I quite liked that relatable part to him. Do you think that that's one of the stronger points of that character creation that, in when the writer sat down and decided that this was how Indy was going to be, that he thought actively, I need him to be very relatable and flawed in that way.
I think 100%. That 100%. He is a very vulnerable character. That opening sequence when he's going into the first sort of temple to get the idol, the little giant mini head gold idol. He collects the sand before he goes in. He's realized that one of his guys has already betrayed him, and he's bullwhipped him. And he says another archaeologist had already gone in, and he said he was good, very good. And there's a worried tone in that line.
Mm.
And he's like, if that guy couldn't make it, how could I make it? And then as you go through, he misjudges the actual he misjudges the weight, which gets them essentially almost killed. When he's jumping, he grabs onto a bit of like rope, and he's like, "Oh, I got a vine. I'm good." Oh no, the vine's going.
Yeah.
Everything is to make you feel like this guy is a very vulnerable character. Then we get snakes. He's afraid of snakes, and that's played off as like a joke, which comes back to be quite important later on. But it's a joke, and he is really sort of a very humanistic character. Then even when you go into the next one, he is when he's back at the when he's teaching, and you have there's a girl who has "love you" written on her eyelids. He's really sort of put off, and he's like, obviously a teacher to student very much should be, but he is, it's a very unusual moment for him, and he's like, he doesn't really get people. He is that smart. He's like a really intelligent James Bond, but with all the sort of charm,
without the suit,
and all the sort of like he is if Q went out and did the missions almost, I think very specifically he is like, even during the fights through the films, no one, maybe on occasion there is several parts where he can knock somebody out with one punch, but for the most part every fight is hard, and he is like, you feel every punch, and because they portray him as this very ordinary sort of guy. I mean, all the way through. And it's even that bit, it's one of my favorite bits in cinema. He beats up the guy to steal the guy's uniform, and it's the wrong size. That's such a beautifully relatable moment. Like he's never perfect for him, and he is not, this perfect character. And the whole way through, they play him as a typical vulnerable, silly sort of guy, all the way through.
Wow, I can't wait to get into a discussion with you about that over on our podcast. So if you'd like to join us on there, then just search Script Department on wherever you get your podcasts, and there'll be a link in the description of the video, and we'll be back for another review soon.
Thanks so much for watching our video, everybody. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can like us and subscribe to us over here on YouTube. And if you want to hear more of this conversation, head over to Spotify, Apple, places like that for a much longer version. But for now, YouTube thinks you'll like these ones. They look pretty good. I reckon you should check it out, especially that top one. Ooh, nice.